Hi, this is Jo from J.H.Leather, and in this video I'll be showing you how to sharpen your edge tools. Let's get started. Right, so what we'll need for this tutorial is the edge tools you would like to sharpen, some wet and dry paper suitable for use on metal, a rough one and a smooth one, so I've got P120 and P600, and you'll also need a strop board and some scrap bits of leather. So we're going to start with the number 6 here. So as you can see, this is quite rough and be quite hard to use on any leather. So what we're going to do first is using the rougher, so the P120 wet and dry paper, is sort of take any burrs off the back of it. So what we're going to do is we want to keep the edge tool sort of flat in the shape that it is, and we don't want to round it off or anything, and then it's a case of just dragging it back towards yourself on the wet and dry paper and just repeating that really. And so like I said, it's quite important, you don't want to sort of round it or twist it, so you're just going to pull it straight back along that edge that is already there. So once you've done that, you want to find some leather that will fit in this slot on the front side of your edge tool. So like I'm doing here, we're just going to move the leather with the shape of the edge tool just one way. This will be away from yourself to remove any burrs. And if you have got sort of bigger burrs on there, what you can do is actually use a bit of the wet and dry paper and wrap it around that leather that you can fit in, and that will just take out the burrs that are there. And then this is going to have to be repeated, this technique, because you're going to be moving the burrs from the front to the back of the edge tool. So you're going to need to use a mixture of both of these techniques to get that sort of edge off. And then once you're happy you've got that nice and smooth with the rougher wet and dry paper, you want to then use a smoother wet and dry just to sort of fine tune and fine polish the edge of your edge tool. And so we'll be using the same technique, so on the back of the edge tool, pulling it towards yourself and keeping the line of the edge tool the same and not twisting it or rolling it. And then with the wet and dry paper around the leather in the middle, you can, again, you want to follow the shape of the edge tool and not round the end off. So you can see here already that's a bit better than what it was. So we're going to continue doing that with our smoother wet and dry paper until we get it a bit nicer, and then we will put it onto our strop and do a fine polish. And so now we're going to put it on the strop tool, and we're just going to sort of fine polish the back of our edge tool. And then to sort of get the strop material, so the carborundum powder and the tallow, so you can fine polish the groove of the edge tool, you can just sort of rub at that bit of sample leather in that we were putting between earlier, and so you can get a good sort of covering of the sort of mixture on that, and then you can use that down the middle of the groove, and again following the shape of the edge tool until you get it nice and finely polished. Here's just a bit of a close-up version of what I've been doing with that bit of leather in between the groove of the edge tool. And as you can see now, our edge tool is running nice and smooth and is nice and sharp on the side of our leather here. And so for the number 1 edge tool, it's very similar, well, it's exactly the same process as what we have been doing. So for me, this number 1 edge tool that I've got here, didn't need too much doing to it. It was just a bit rough. It gave a rough edge on the edge of the leather. So I'm just going to whiz it over here on the wet and dry paper. And then to do the groove in the smaller edge tools, what you can do is just fold a bit of that wet and dry paper over in half, and then you can put that in the groove, and using the same sort of method as we did earlier, the same movements, we're just going to follow the shape of the groove and the way that it's angled, and just get any burrs out that are in there. And so we're nearly here with this edge tool. That's a lot better than the original edge I put on that bit of leather. So we're just going to do a little fine polish now with the strop board. And then to get the groove in this edge tool, it's a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit of thread, and we're actually going to run the thread over the strop board to get it covered in the tallow and carborundum powder. And then we can use the thread down the groove of the edge tool, and that will get rid of any burrs that are there. You could also use a really fine sort of wet and dry paper for this also, but I found that this technique works quite well. And there you have it. That is how to sharpen your edge tools. If you like the video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos and tutorials. And don't remember to click that bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave a message below and I shall get back to you. And I shall see you in the next video.